We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point, a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this, an alternative world branched off.
Good morning. It's 10:01 here in not so sunny California. I'm Robert and welcome to Navigating the Astrological Matrix. I'll be your host for the next 2 hours or thereabouts, your navigator. And we'll be traveling around. We'll be tripping around the stars. Interesting times astrologically. We're headed into a portal of sorts. So tomorrow we're staring down Mercury Retrograde. Most people know a little bit about Mercury Retrograde. We'll talk more about that as the show progresses. It's going to be interesting because Mercury Retrograde is in Sagittarius. And what Sagittarius is classically known for is telling the truth. So what we'll be experiencing potentially with Mercury Retrograde is the telling of the truth from a perspective where we're looking back, things that have happened already, not things that are happening right now. So, for instance, one of the things that may come up during this period with Mercury retrograde Sagittarius would be looking back at 9/11, right? That was a classic Sagittarian, truth-telling, retrograde, looking backward kind of moment. And that wouldn't be the only one. Pat Tillman, whatever these things are, it's not about what's happening now, but it's about what has happened. And don't underestimate the power of Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius to make an impact on the collective. On a personal level, that's gonna it depends on where Mercury lines up in your chart. Depends on what house, what planets it targets. Generally speaking, because it is in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius rules law, I would say that this is not a time to enter into any kind of contracts at all with a Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. Not at all. This would be a great time to review contracts. This would be a great time to hire a lawyer and go over something with a fine-tooth comb. This may be a very good time to revisit cases where you may want to think about relitigating. But it's not. This would not be a time where I would enter into any contractual obligations. So don't buy a car during the next 3.5 weeks. Just take that right off the table. If you're looking to buy a house, put it off till the beginning of the year. Any big purchase, any huge commitment that that causes you to put your name on a dotted line, you want to steer clear of that. So, yeah, Mercury retrograde. Now we also have an eclipse happening, and that's on Friday. And we're entering into kind of a cycle of eclipses now. So we've got one on Friday, and then we've got another one coming up in, I believe, on the, I guess it's the full moon. It's the full moon. So we've got a new, I believe it's a new, let's just check this out here. I have to get my bearings. Let me go here. Hold on a second. So tomorrow, let's see, we've got Thursday. Now my extendo, it doesn't, hold on a second. So yeah, I think we have an eclipse on Friday. Black Friday, yep, that's right. So what you want to do, you want to tread softly. This would be a great time for the next 72 hours to just chill out, right? And not get sucked up into kind of a heavy vortex of energy, especially at the beginning of Mercury retrograde, because that's when it's the sketchiest. That's when things get turbulent and bumpy. Tomorrow, I got to tell you, terrible travel day. If you are leaving to go somewhere tomorrow, and you're traveling over 150 miles, it is expect delays. I hate to be superstitious when it comes to Mercury retrogrades, but there are some Mercury retrogrades you just got to pay attention to. And for me, the big ones are almost always Gemini, Virgo, and Sagittarius. Maybe you could throw Pisces in there, but the thing with Pisces is it's so fuzzy that things can sort of right themselves if you're really deft on a Pisces Mercury retrograde. You can kind of and somehow it's like a kayak, right? Mercury retrograde in Pisces is like a kayak, and if you're out in a kayak and you turn over, you can flip yourself back over it. That's kind of like Mercury retrograde in Pisces. The other three signs, though, which are all part of, by the way, the mutable quartet. The other three signs all have, all have relationships to Mercury that are, well, first of all, Mercury in Virgo it's in its own roller, same as Mercury in Gemini, and the other two are in their fall. But because of Mercury in Gemini and everything that it relates to in terms of local travel, schedules, injuries, bump on your head, stuff like that, you've got to just pay attention when Mercury is retrograde in Gemini. When Mercury is retrograde in Virgo, again, details will actually help you a little bit become more focused and more attentive to details. But if you're not, that Mercury retrograde will knock you off your feet. And Sagittarius, again, very important, contracts and travel in a big way, not around town, down the road, not a county or two away. We're talking long distance travel. So hopefully if you're traveling, you've gotten it out of the way, you've got your travel, you're on your way. Let's hope you're on your way. And if you're away and you're leaving tomorrow, then just do your best to keep your cool and not get frustrated. That is really the key to navigating and transiting through a Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. And then we've got the eclipse on Friday, Black Friday. I think it's a shitty term, don't you, Black Friday? I understand why it's Black Friday, because that's the one day out of the year where companies can actually go into the black, right? They offer all these great, but the whole concept of Black Friday is just it's barbaric. Have you ever seen footage of Black Friday? I mean, it's almost like a Skinner box in some ways. They open up the gate and bang, the rats go flying into the stores, and it's almost, I've seen video footage of Black Friday where it's almost violent. The people trampling one another to get these deals. It's mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. And I've never done a Black Friday. I can honestly say that I've never gotten up at the crack of dawn with my slippers and my robe on and my cup of my giant AM PM 72-ounce cup of coffee. I've never done that before, and I'll never do it. Maybe I will once, just to see what it's like. I don't think so. Maybe we should do like Occupy. I don't know, what would we occupy? Occupy Walmart. See, I think the Occupy movement needs to go to Walmart. I think that'd be a worthwhile place for them to occupy, especially on Black Friday. No guests today. The whole concept of the show here is to get into this concept of gratitude, thankfulness. And this is, theoretically, this is the time of year where we do this, right? And I've always thought that Sagittarius is actually a pretty good time of year. Because Sagittarius, of all the signs, is the one that has the most faith. It has the most optimism. This is that time. This is the Sagittarian. You open up your heart, you open up your higher mind, and you bring the two together, and you're just grateful. You're grateful for being human. You're grateful for this great spirit that infuses us with purpose, with meaning. You're grateful for your family. You're grateful for the food. Maybe you eat too much. Maybe you eat a little too much. I mean, that is really that is really Black Friday. That is really Black Friday. That is really Thanksgiving, and it's a very Jovian and jovial experience. Well, right now. So as the show progresses, I'm going to open up the phone. By the way, I don't think I'm going to have a lot of callers today. I just get that. I get that people are traveling. And I was on the road taking my kid to school today. It was uncharacteristically easy to take him to school. By the way, I got to say that taking my kid to school is one of the highlights of my life. It is seriously a major highlight. And it's funny because, I don't live within bike riding distance of his school, because if I did, I'd ride my bike with him every single day, and that's what I do. But I don't. I actually live about 7.5 miles away from the school, so we have to get in the car and drive. We have to commute to school. But that 7.5 mile commute is really one of the highlights of my week, because there are certain things that we do that are part of that experience. There's a marsh where the bay ends, where the San Francisco Bay ends. So it comes right up to the freeway, and every day we get to look at whether it's high tide or low tide. And today the marsh was all the way up to the edge of the freeway. So it's a very excited conversation about the tides. So I can honestly say that I'm grateful for that commute. I'm grateful for that 7.5 miles drive each day to drop them off at school. Not each day. It's 2 days out of the week. And somebody's trying to call me, and they should know that it's my show. So let me turn my phone off here. So, yeah. I'm grateful for that. That's what I'm grateful for. And, it's funny. I get into these flows, and it's like when I get interrupted, it takes me out of that flow. And I tell you what, this is really an interesting sort of notice. Now that I've stopped drinking, my relationship to noticing my internal states is becoming much more fine-tuned.